Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and generally relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life will now enable you to use those same health and well-being effects at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com. All you need to do is quote the code PLANT24 when ordering. So today on the podcast, we have something very special. We have the guests from Sound Matters. Now, Sound Matters creates sound and listening experiences that help you change your world. More recently, they came to our attention as they were recording sounds all around the Newt estate in Somerset and the fabulous Great Dixter. The sound recordings are not always as you might expect. Yes, there's birdsong, but they also document sounds in the border, in the log pile, deep in the raised beds, and in the centre of the compost heap. And we can't wait to find out more.
Yay! Welcome to the podcast, Mike and Harry. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yes. So, first of all, before we delve into what Sound Matters is all about, tell us about your backgrounds, guys.
Harry, do you want to kick off?
Shall I kick off? Okay. So my background is very different to Mike's. So mine is actually a background in sound and music. Sort of my early career, I've sort of got into making music in bands, and I did a course in production as I really kind of gravitated towards like studio, like so being in the studio and sort of recording stuff. And I've been making music as a music producer for as long as I can remember, really. And I've done various kind of roles sort of in the music industry. I've run like a recording studio. I've done gigged, sort of toured, and I've done quite a bit of sort of sound recording actually in terms of like location recording, so with sort of documentary and film. I've also done some composition as well, sort of composed for film. So I've kind of worn a lot of different hats over the years, and I suppose I actually met Mike sort of through music. We were actually in a band together. He was on didgeridoo, and I was on keys, and so we actually met in a studio, and we kind of had a kind of shared interest, obviously, in music, but then we got into sort of the world of sound and talking about the soundscape. In terms of what we what we've sort of worked on over the years, it's been very much sort of Sound Matters, using the sound sort of look and think and listen to the world differently.
Okay. Before we delve in, then tell us a bit about your background then, Mike, please.
So I'm basically a miserable environmentalist. So I've always been passionate about the environment, and that led me to Australia, where I did a PhD in the links between climate change and war, which was really uplifting. And that led to a massive depression, which ended up with me searching for something a little bit different, something that could take me out of that pit of despair. Okay. And that's when I started playing didgeridoo. I got absolutely fascinated by First Nations sort of connection to land, and largely that was through sound, storytelling, music. So that was like a bit of an epiphany for me. It was like, wow, there's this way of connecting, as I say, to land, but also to environmental issues through sound. And as Harry mentioned, we sort of set up a band, and then from there sort of developed Sound Matters, which is very much about trying to engage people with the soundscape as a way to address issues like climate change. So it's, we've come from very different backgrounds, but melded, hopefully, an amazing talent pool to create Sound Matters. So yeah, that's the background.
Cool.
That's amazing. So with all of this talent that you both have popped into the pool, Sound Matters is what it says, sound does matter. It's all about sound, but it's not just specific to plants, right? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so it very much started with trying to engage people with broader sort of environmental issues. So exploring what the soundscape, say, of biodiversity loss is, soundscape of climate change, soundscape of sort of social, economic issues. So it was mainly, we come from the soundscape as our sort of reference point. That's where we start from. And it was through that that we sort of got very interested in, interestingly, other people became interested in what we were doing and sort of started to think, could that be applied to the world of plants, to horticulture and that? And so that's kind of how we ended up working with the likes of Great Dixter and with the Newt, and then increasingly with Arrett Anderson. So it wasn't directly because of plants, if that makes sense, although we've become fascinated. I actually hate gardening. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I've not been a gardener all my life, that's for sure. My father put an end to any passion about gardening because it was like, get out in the garden and dig some soil.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's the plants, and as we will discuss later on, but the soundscape of plants and the sounds that plants create have become something that we've got really interested in.
Okay, so tell us then about this work with Dixter then, because that's where certainly you first came to light with many people, and I've been following your Instagram account for probably about a year now, seeing all about that project, and it's all about exploring that biodiversity all around Great Dixter, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been a real pleasure to be involved with such a project at Great Dixter. I mean, it's an incredible place, and we came into contact with them through one of Mike's talks actually at Beth Chatto, and they kind of invited us to sort of explore the soundscape work in their garden, and wow, it's been a real treat to just be in the garden first and foremost. It's such an amazing space, and we sort of set about to kind of conduct a sort of a general soundscape study, sort of recording as many of the kind of indicator sounds as possible there, and get a sort of a real sense of like the nature there. But also, importantly, was getting to know the people who worked there, and such an amazing bunch that we met over the course of the year, and some real personalities. And we sort of realized early on we need to capture some of these sort of really interesting people, and we were sort of really taken by their passion for obviously for sort of for plants and trees and nature in general, but really passionate specifically for that garden, many of which have worked there for a number of years. So yeah, we captured a lot of their voices, and that became sort of a big part of the project as well.
It's about the people also, isn't it? We often don't hear people's voices, and so that
yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right with that. And that was what the project. It was very interesting because the remit was more biodiversity, but what we realised as we were working there that the biodiversity was a product of the relationship between people and that landscape, and that's what we really tried to draw out. And I think so much of sort of biodiversity discourse, environmental discourse, is about excluding humans. And I think whilst that's great in certain situations, I think especially in somewhere like southeast of England, you can't do that. It's not a wilderness. It's very much a human landscape. And so that's what we were trying to do, was make people aware that you can still have rich biodiversity and a lot of human activity, but you have to decide. For example, that's how you're going to garden. You're going to garden for biodiversity. It doesn't, in many ways, it doesn't happen by accident, and I think that's a key part. So we were trying to tell that story through sound of the activities that lead to that richness.
That's really exciting. Like, how do you go about recording the sounds when you're out and about? How does that work?
I give all the equipment to Harry and go off for a cup of tea.
Yeah, we've got a number of different recording techniques that we've developed over the years. The most important one, I guess, is capturing kind of the baseline soundscapes. So that's generally a stereo recording. So we have a kind of dedicated binaural microphone, which is amazing. Essentially, you can either put it in your ears on a dummy head, and you can capture the soundscape in any given point. And it's really high definition. It's very kind of sensitive, so it picks up loads of different sounds and gives you a good sense of place. So that's an important one. We also use shotgun microphones, which are a bit more directional, to pick up bird song, for example. Mike's got this very impressive parabolic mic, which is looks like a big satellite dish, and he captures a lot of kind of birds. I think, did you manage to get an owl, didn't you, Mike?
It's an amazing bit of kit. I look a complete idiot wandering around with, it's like, I look like one of those people you never wanted to look like. It's like, the sound guy, how uncool. But yeah, it's amazing. And it's, again, the listening experience that you get when you have some of this equipment, as Harry will say, but, we took Arrett Anderson to listen to the log pile using a specific microphone, and it just it brings it alive, like it's that augmented reality. And you've got your headphones on or whatever, and you hear a different world, and that's what we've been.
Yeah, the mic refers to is actually, it's called a hydrophone, which is something that we've been using for the last few years. Obviously, it's called a hydrophone. It's designed to be in water, and it picks up very, very subtle vibrations in the water, and you have to run it through like a really high gain preamp, so that it makes it as loud as possible without being too noisy. And yeah, we were using it in the water, but we decided to put it in the soil as well to see what we could hear. And that's actually a project out in Spain, which we've been working on for a number of years. A landscape restoration project, and we thought, let's try this microphone in the soil, and that's been like a really, really interesting discovery with this super kind of high-end microphone picking up these really, really slight.
It's gone. It's literally black. It's just completely blacked out. Yeah, it's just part of the recording.
This is to show the importance of sound. Sound matters, you see.
That's a moment.
This is literally proving how much sound matters.
I think looks like a power cut, actually.
Yeah, Harry's completely disappeared. Actually, we can just see his shadow of his hair, is what I can see with the units behind him. So anyway, we'll see what happens with Harry. But I have to just say about the soil, you were talking, Harry was talking about, listening into the soil, and that's so exciting because we're always told how much life there is in the soil. There's more life, I think, in a small handful of soil than there are humans on the planet. And And so there's all this stuff going on beneath the surface, underneath your feet, but you can't hear it. You can pick it up, and you can't even see the microorganisms in it. So to be able to hear something must be incredible.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. I mean, I did geography as an undergraduate, and the one thing that really bored me was soil. I had to go out into these fields and dig, and it was like, oh God, give me magma, give me something interesting, and it's soil, that little bit. But that's what life, relies on. That, soil is so important, and yet it's so unsexy. We talk about climate change, but we don't talk about, the carbon sequestration through soil, or very rarely. We've always got to drive, electric vehicles or this or that, or stop flying. But it's actually soil is so key to our survival. And I think this is what we started to, is how could we make this interesting in a different way? And listening to it. And also we created what's called the soil composer, which takes data from the soil and puts it through analog synthesizers and creates, this amazing music.
Wow.
And that, that again, it's an engagement piece. It's not great science, but we do use data. We do, we try and create soundscapes so that people realize that, as you say, Ellen, what's under their feet is alive. It's a different world, and it's a world that we ignore at our peril.
Yeah.
And this helped to get that extra appreciation, won't it? So, So you obviously you were using a few different locations around Dixter. What were some of the highlights there for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it is an amazing place, as you know. I think I really loved the meadows. During the summer, obviously, those meadows, the richness of, the orchids, yellow rattle, whatever, it's such an amazing, they are such amazing spaces, and they are so full of life, so the meadows, the sunken garden, which is actually quite fascinating as an environmentalist who I suppose feels that we shouldn't be interfering with the modern human world as much as we do. It was fascinating to go into the sunken garden, which is a very, very manicured, tended place, and that's the hotspot for biodiversity. So that really that's what I found interesting. It challenges this notion of untouched wild. It's like, actually we can really interfere with it, and there's this amazing life. So that was
essentially
exactly. You're absolutely right. Dare we say it? But yeah, so the sunken garden, and as I say, the meadows, and interestingly, the house as well, because it's so old. It's a habitat for so many different species. There's some amazing. There's a barking dog.
Ellen, is that yours?
It's not mine.
Harry's back. Harry's back, though.
Yeah,
I'm back. Yeah, sorry, we had a power outage in our block.
Well, it's all been happening now, because now there's a dog on the run. But we're managing to keep it all together, so very good. Sorry, Mike, you were in the middle of something.
Yeah, the house.
Sorry.
Again, when you don't tend things too much, it's again so rich. There's so many habitats in that old house, and that was beautiful. It's
that was a real surprise as well. Actually, that was the lovely thing. It was actually my bedroom where I was hearing some weird noises happening in the wall when we'd stay there, and I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah,
and then it was like. And then we were like, let's just put a microphone. We actually used the same soil microphone I was talking about earlier before we got cut off. Yeah. And just put it up against the wall. And it was just absolutely buzzing, literally, with life. It had a load of bees literally just nestled inside of the wall. And so, yeah, that was such a cool thing. It's like, right, we've got to capture this. Just the most unlikely place to be experiencing a lot of the insect life actually in one of the walls.
That's crazy. Like, there's only so many sounds that us as humans can hear just to, in general. So the equipment that you're using is bringing so many things to life. Well, you're hearing things that we just can't hear, day to day as we go about, our world. Do you have any plans to try and capture the sounds of anything else to do with plants that has never been done before? Like, what else could we listen to with plants?
So, I mean, what we haven't done yet, which has been done before, which we would like to explore, is that you can get these ultrasonic mics which pick up really, really high frequencies, and apparently that's where plants do actually make noises. Okay. I think it's about 50 to 80,000. 80 kilohertz. That's right. So really, really high frequencies, which we can't hear with the human ear, but you can actually slow them down, and it sort of sounds a bit like sort of popping and crackling. Wow. So we'd like to explore that. What else, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think the root systems, that's something again that is being done, but with specific microphones you can pick up communication between trees, between plants, other plants. So that's sort of, I think, the communication side, the idea that again, we've created this sort of dead world. And we think we're the only ones that have that capacity to properly communicate. Oh, yeah, the dogs do, and, dolphins, there's a few charismatic animals that, might be saying something. But we find it so difficult to think that, plants, they're kind of dead and, we're allowed to eat those, but they might be speaking. They, it's a world, it's a living, vibrant, talking world. And so to be able to sort of capture some of that, and as Harry says, with specific equipment, is again really exciting. And the idea that we can challenge this notion that it's a dead world with an augmented soundscape is really exciting. So we'd like to do that at Dixter. And I suppose one of the other things we're very, very keen on doing is showing people that a lot of these spaces that we've created, especially for agriculture or industrial agriculture, are pretty much silent. The soils are silent, the plants aren't really communicating, and that's a dead world. And we have to show people that and we can still live extremely good lives, better lives, and have a world which is alive with us.
One thing we're really keen on developing, which we've started off, is actually doing soundscape monitoring, which is something you may have heard of, but essentially it's assisting the rewilding and the landscape restoration movement. And that's essentially using lots of soundscape monitors. So these are kind of mics which you put in and around an estate, let's say, or a farm, and you can capture over time the change in the soundscape. And it's actually very, very good way of measuring biodiversity, because you can actually run it through software and scan, audio scan all the different calls, and you can actually create sort of tallies of species within an area. So this is something that we're actually in discussions with a couple of locations in UK, and soundscape monitoring is something that we're really, really kind of gearing up for, I think, for the next year.
Guys, that's so interesting.
That's so exciting. What could happen in the future, for sure. Now, you've both come from a musical background, and you're making music with plants as well. Am I right in saying that? Can you tell us a bit more about that side of things?
Yeah, as it happens, we have been developing something that we've been calling the soil composer, which essentially is it's taken on lots of different lives, but it again started off in this project out in Spain, where we were initially thinking, how could we sonify the data that's collected on the landscape. So taking some sort of soil nutrition facts and data and turning that into sound, and it's called data sonification. And so that's how it kind of started. So we're making music from soil which was being restored, and the idea being that as the time progresses, the soil gets healthier and becomes more dynamic, more animate. We have this kind of very vibrant music that comes from it. But that's kind of developed now. And now we've got an album actually that we're working on, which started off with this thing called the soil composer, which essentially we put loads of sensors into the soil, and that triggers off notes in a piece of software called Ableton, and that then fires off lots of different arpeggiations and different kind of musical motifs into this little analog synthesizer that we've constructed. And so we've been doing that this year in the same landscape restoration project in Spain, and the idea is that the soil where we connect this to kicks off the track, and then we're now layering up lots of different other sort of musical components with local musicians. So they're essentially kind of jamming with the soil, if you like. Wow. So it's an album we're working on called Earth Tones.
Well, that's so cool. Oh my gosh.
And part of that will be as well with the plants. You know, we will be able to connect plants to this using various bits of equipment. You will have seen people doing that with something which was called the MIDI sprout and then became a thing called the plant wave, but basically taking electrical impulses and that turning into what we call MIDI signals, and then you can use that to trigger various things. So that will also be part of this, you know, the broader soundscape, but also not just using technology, but also listening to what we call susurration, the sounds that, say, wind makes through trees or through plants. And actually, if you really tune your ear in, you can tell whether the wind's blowing through an oak tree or an ash tree. And with issues such as ash dieback, you know, we could be losing these sounds completely. We've lost the sound of wind through elm, you know, and in the future we might lose the sound of wind through ash. So that's part of it as well, to make sure that we record the susurration. And we're working actually on this with Adam Hunt from Urquhart and Hunt. He's a great supporter of our work. But one of the projects we want to do is make sure we capture some of these sounds before they're lost.
Yeah, that's really important. My thing is trees. I'm like a massive tree lover and hugger and everything else. And I'll just tell you something about this thing that happened once years ago. I was at Chatsworth and I was on my way to the Chatsworth show where I was speaking at the time, but I was really early. And I stopped at the side of the road and there was a lovely forest and a stream. And I thought, I'll just go for a walk amongst the trees. And I would go along and I check around that no one's looking. And then I gave the tree a big hug, as I do. And for the first time ever, I actually said thank you to the tree. I literally whispered thank you. And as the breeze came along, it took my thank you and it sounded like it was reverberating off all of the trees in the row of trees. And it was like, thank you. Like all the way along there. And it was truly a magical experience. Like it was like, wow, I will probably never, ever be able to recreate that. Do you know what I mean? It was that single moment where, you know, how I was positioned in the tree and the wind and everything. And it was just absolutely incredible. So do you have any plans to do more work with trees, please?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a number of projects at the moment, which are looking at sort of sap flow in trees. So trying to sort of, well, we've done that already, but a data sonification project. And we're working on one at the Newt, which Harry can explain. But definitely, that the whole ethos of our work is not to give voice to the voiceless, because that's the height of sort of trees, whatever, are, as we've said before, they are communicating, they are talking, and also they're talking to us. As you just said, your explanation there was sort of such a beautiful animistic sort of analysis of what happened. You're not alone in those spaces. You are with entities, living, breathing entities, and an animate world. So a lot of what we want to do is to communicate that through direct recordings, directly using, for example, using trees as a musician in their own right. But yeah, Harry,
so
I don't know
actually one tree we will be working with next year is the sycamore tree by the cafe in the Newt, the Newt Hotel. They have a sycamore tree that they'd like us to record the sap flow of that.
Wow.
And the idea being there's going to be listening posts which sort of connected to the tree where people can actually listen to the sap flow of the tree and the air bubbles popping. That'll be coming in spring of next year. So if you go to the Newt, look out for that one.
That sounds really cool. Also, like, the thing with sound is it does bring everything alive. Like, we know trees are alive, we know plants are alive, but listening to what's happening, within them and around them really brings that to life. And that can only help, humans have that better connection with the natural world, surely.
100%. And that's basically, that encapsulates what we're trying to do. I think that's the thing. We're so clever. We're so, the technological hubris we use to address crisis. It's like, this amazing human sort of exceptionalism that drives it. You only have to look at what's happening at COP28 at the moment. It's all this hard technology. Whereas basically we just need a few people to say, look, for God's sake, just sit in a woodland, realize what's important, hug a tree, and then, take some action. But it's always hard science. And I suppose what we're trying to say is, look, it all starts with connection. If we do not have that connection, then we'll be banging on. We'll have COP 340. It's like, because we haven't actually connected. So our work is very much about saying, let's stop, just sit, listen to these other voices, and realize your place in this magical system, which we're completely effing up, completely. And so it's about taking a step back and using the lost art of listening. Most of us don't know how to listen anymore. Luckily we still have certain people around the world who do still listen intimately to the world, but that it's so crucial, and it's a message that's being lost. So that's the soundscape. That's why we're so keen on getting people to engage with the soundscape.
Just before we finish up, because I know we are going to finish up, and I said no more than 40 minutes, and now we're probably going to run over because I'm the one keep asking the questions. Is how do you, like, what tips do you have or suggestions for listeners of how they can listen? So you obviously you have all of the equipment to do this incredible, wonderful, magical stuff that connects people, to the sounds of nature and other things like, your homes and the wood and everything. But what can people do if you're just going for a walk outside, in the park or down the road? Do you have any tips for how people can just listen?
Yeah, it's to actually go out with the attention, with the aim of listening, to give your attention to sound. And interestingly, we're working on a number of ventures. Sorry, I'm now promoting something, but it's very much about. But we've developed a concept called integral listening, which we will be writing a book about, and also we've set up the Soundscape Academy, which is very much about helping people develop these techniques. The thing is, they're very simple. You just say, well, just go and bloody listen, but it's not as easy as that. And so we've created a number of tools. We've created a 5-step sort of sound design program, which is to help listeners. But it all starts with going out literally with that aim of listening, and also to challenge yourself. So when you hear a sound, just think, well, what's that telling me? So leaf blower, for example, bloody awful sound. But
the worst. It's the worst. I hate it.
It's the worst. But to sit with that and actually think, well, what's the message in that sound? And I think this is one thing that I found when Harry and I first started working together, was when I actually started listening. It's a meditation. It's a meditation on sound. It's that simple. But we're all so busy. And a lot of us, when we go outside, first thing we do is put our headphones on, turn the music on. And so we lose all that. And as Harry always jokes, because I say the soundscape is an amazing repository of information. It's become a bit of a joke, but it's true. And so the takeaway for people is to put some effort into listening and to challenge yourself to say, because you've got two sides. You've got the internal and you've got the external. So the external is the sound source you're receiving, the sound of the dog barking. But then depending on how you're feeling, you will interpret that differently. And so the internal soundscape is so important, because that dog barking will either drive you mad or it'll be like, lovely little doggy thing. But it depends how you're feeling.
Yeah.
So that you can use sound to really work out basically your mental state. You can use sound to decide how you're actually interpreting the world. And look at our politicians. God, they could do with a bit of that, bit of integral listening. No one's really listening to one another. And on that note, I'll shut up because I'm the worst listener.
But
it's so interesting. So I do forest bathing. I'm a guide for forest bathing, and the three things I always say when we're kind of deep in the forest and we're moving on through that is, what can you see, what can you hear, but more importantly is, how do you feel? So, linking what you see and what you hear together, and how does that make you feel? Is it making you feel uncomfortable? Is it making you feel happy? Are you at peace? Are you feeling anger? Like, what does it feel? And if we don't recognize that, that's we lose all connection to ourselves and other people. But you can literally find that connection through just listening, just being in that moment. So that's really what you're saying, how much sound really does matter.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
This is wonderful. Unless there's any more brilliant gems of wisdom you want to pass to us, we might have to end this now.
Or I'll start sweating.
You can let us know where to find out more.
Well, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity.
Oh, it's been fantastic, honestly.
It has been fantastic. Where can listeners find out about you?
So you can go to our website, which is www.sound-matters.com, or check us out on Instagram at Sound Matters HQ, where we'll be dropping some interesting stuff in the new year. So give us a follow, and we'll keep you posted what we're up to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. A very thoughtful podcast, I think. So listeners will go away and go, right, I'm going to go outside and actually tune in and listen.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
Mike. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm so sorry. The first meeting I forget in a year, and it's you. I'm sorry. Oh, the drama of it, and I'm just
At
laying
least
here as
it's
well.
me. I feel like at least it's me. Like, I'm like easy with it. If it was a client or something, you'd really be cross with yourself.
Oh no, you messaged me saying I'm in. I was like, what? Hey, your wallpaper is nice, isn't it? Are you showcasing this to me?
No, I'm sitting on the bed intentionally because it keeps the dog quiet. For some reason, if we're sitting on the bed, she thinks it's sleep time. But if I go to the office or anywhere, then she starts sleeping up. So there
It's
you
funny,
go.
dogs are clever, but they're also easily fooled.
Yeah, exactly that.
Oh, Ellen, how are you? How's the rash?
I keep telling you not to tell everyone about the rash.
Ah! Oh dear. Oh,
Shall I
what
tell
a
you something
lovely
really funny?
day.
Shall I tell you something really funny? I do actually have a rash.
What?
This time I have
Really?
on my leg.
Shingles?
On my leg, and I think it's from like going out. We went walking in the mountains, and I had quite loose trousers on, and genuinely, I think I have a rash on that.
Oh, my poor little darling. What a precious little thing.
I know, so sensitive.
Oh, I spent a lot of time with you at the minute, Ellen. We were recording yesterday, weren't we, as well?
I know. But yesterday we were doing formal recordings, so we couldn't really chat and be silly and find out what's going on, you know?
Although Manoj, doesn't he talk a lot?
Manoj. Oh, what a lovely guy. And we should tell everyone, like, we have questions set for each interview or like each guest, and they're really just to guide us so we don't go crazy off track and we know what we're doing. And a lot of guests like to have the questions up front so they know what we're going to ask. So that's cool. But Manoj was such a talker, and he had so much great stuff to say that he was literally answering the next question and the next question without us even having to ask a question.
But that's not out until the end of March. So this week is the Sound Matters episode, which I think you will all enjoy very much. Listen to compost heaps, no less.
It's kind of fascinating, isn't it, though, really? Like, so much we can't hear that humans can't hear. I think it's really awesome.
I know. So what's going on, Ellen? What's going down?
Well, I was going to ask you this first, and because we were going to record like half an hour later than this, and I've just rearranged my morning especially for you. No, not really. I didn't have anything else on.
Yeah.
So what are you doing that we had to record earlier?
Oh, nothing. I'm just going to a comedy night. But it was just because something else changed, and then I was like, oh, well, because, you know, another guest, there was another person going to be involved, but now there isn't, and it's easier to move one person than two. That was all, Melon.
Okay.
Because do you find, like, it must be a lot for your brain as well. No, oh God, that sounds rude, but you'll get what I mean in a minute. But, like, it's like, I feel like my life in the last couple of years, it's kind of planned hour by hour. This is kind of a freelance thing, I know, but it's just, and I think also there's this aspect where we have a lot of Zoom meetings, and things like phone calls are more, they're at certain times rather than in the old days. Everything was just a random spaff of work, wasn't it, I guess? But now, it's a very structured existence. And so even when I do something social, I'm kind of like, what did my friend say the other day? He also works in broadcast. He runs a radio station, and he said, back timing, that's it. He's always back timing, because I was due to be at his at 7 p.m. on Saturday, and I was there on the dot. And we just laughed at each other that because we work in broadcast, we're so good at back timing. Because, you know, obviously I do live shows on QVC and I have to start at 9 a.m. It's not negotiable, do you know? So I need to know that everything I can do in sequence in order to then be ready. And it kind of makes you really organised in all aspects of your life. And dare I say, a tiny bit square. So like everything's a half-hour slot. Bob.
But I think that's a good way of organising your day, because then you also know
you make the most out of life
and what other things you can do with the other time that you have outside of work. You know,
you're right.
That's a good thing, but you have to be really flexible as well. Like, I have a daily list. And it doesn't always work out. Like the list, I don't tick off everything, or things get changed, and then, you know, people want to change the time of a call, or the call goes on longer or whatever. You have to be really flexible. I know you can't be flexible with the time you are live broadcasting, but outside of that, you have to like really flex it, don't you? Flex it.
Totally. And I quite like that challenge sometimes of kind of, just kind of like a day will have so many things in. There's kind of like, what do you call it? Like balancing the plates, getting to the end. It's cute. So Wonderful. Go on. Go on, darling.
Have you had snow? Have you had snow where you are?
No.
I've seen some really beautiful photographs in Norfolk, which I'm missing now, of a blanket of snow, and it looks so pretty. And I was like, will we get anywhere we are? We're going down to -10. Overnight this week is about -10, but there isn't any snow in the city. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I still haven't got my heating working. But I did actually call the engineer today, so they're coming to fix it. Because I didn't know how to work the timer and the settings. So I literally been here like most of the winter just like wearing a fleece instead, which is okay. But when it then gets to -5, I am kind of like, right, now, Michael, you need to fix the heating.
What about the plants? What about all your plants? Are they surviving?
Fine, really. They haven't said anything, if you know what I mean.
We discussed your heating weeks ago. At least you're being environmentally friendly by not putting the heat on.
But Ellen, the thing is, like, I know this sounds weird, and like many women out there will not understand this.
So bad. The fact you've even just said that is really bad.
But like, the thing is, I never like. You can be too hot very easily, and to be honest, even when the heating's not here, and I don't know what temperature it would be in the apartment. Well, no, I think it says on the thing like 15 degrees in the apartment. I don't know, but anyway, I just put a fleece on for half an hour, and I literally that makes me like too hot. So if I had the heating on as well, it would just be horrible. And also saving money, but better for the environment that I'm not using heating as well, Ellen Mary.
All of those things.
I use your full name when I'm like being really serious.
But I am kind of like thinking to myself, are you going through like a male menopause? Because you are literally talking about the life of a female.
I'm always warm. Honestly, my hands are always warm. Mm-hmm. Any time of day, indoors, outdoors, my hands are always warm. It's a gift.
You are cold-blooded then. So, because I think it's the opposite way around. I can always remember my mum saying, because I was always cold when I was little, that you're hot-blooded. Yeah, some kind of...
Yeah. Honestly. Oh, Ellen, ding dong.
Also, you are in an apartment, and that should retain the heat better because you've got other...
Yeah. And when something's a new building, like, you probably got the same. Like, it's not really gonna... Yeah, but I like when the guy came to fix the heating, he was like... He comes in and everyone's always... Like... Everyone's very scared of the cold. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no one. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like you don't get hardy if you don't expose yourself to cold. Like I'm not saying I'm doing ice baths and stuff like that, but just allow yourself to I don't know, like we try and cushion ourselves in life far too much. We don't build up any resilience or hardiness because we're always like wrapped in a bloody blanket. But this is just the way I think. And when he came in to then fix the heating, it's like, well, my balcony door is like wide open and it's kind of like proper breezy. And so it's kind of like, I'm thinking, he must think I'm crazy because it's like my heating's not working, but I've got all the doors open because I wasn't that cold.
Wow, you're like... Is it a lizard? What is it? A lizard? I can't think.
I do wonder if we've spent too long talking about heating now. If we might need to change things up.
You probably have. But hopefully that's resonated to someone. But I doubt there's many people like you. To be fair, we haven't had it on much here at all. But we do occasionally.
I just think people could, just deal with it a little bit less. Do you know what I mean?
I do think we also worry about our plants. Like house plants do need a certain temperature.
Well, to be honest, I hadn't thought of that, so I don't know what that says about me. But but the thing is also, Ellen, another thing, like I'm moving more and more to larger plants for more impact, but also they don't dry out as quick. And they're probably going to be hardier because they're bigger and a bit more mature.
I need to ask you about that. I get that, and I've got some bigger plants that definitely don't need watering as much, but there are some that need more. Like when big plants get pot bound, when they've got really big,
at that point,
you have to split them. Like, you have to know when they get to that point, because otherwise they are not going to like you. And the other day,
I wouldn't have them get too big. Yeah.
No, I've got a massive peace lily that I've had for a few years. Really big Sansevieria, which is in a huge pot, and I was like the peace lily since we've moved, it's very, very dry. And
they're horrible anyway.
It needed watering like every 5 days. It was doing the full droop. It's like, geez.
Well, at least it lets you know. That's easier than some plants.
It sure did. It was like properly. And then so I took that out of the pot, and then I took the Sansevieria out of the pot, and I split it all. And the peace lily I got 7 plants out of. 7?
Oh yeah.
No,
what are you going to do? Terrorise your neighbours with that?
No, 5 plants out of the peace lily and 2 out of the Sansevieria. But then I took some cuttings and put them to propagate in water. No, I'm not giving them to anyone. I've literally filled the house. Like, the house is big, the rooms are big, the ceilings are high, so you need plants. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
So
I can't wait to visit.
Well, I mean, it's been 4 years. I'm still waiting.
Are you there tomorrow? But also, what else about big plants? I can't remember now.
About feeding, also people always say don't feed over winter, but honestly, I have had to feed some of my plants this winter.
Well, I guess if you've got a warm house, then
and you've got to
they're going to be growing potentially.
Yeah. Everyone, people say don't repot, don't this, don't that over winter. But if you know your plant, you have a plant that needs.
Oh my God, my ear stinks. Sorry, carry on. Just fiddle with my earring and my ear stinks.
Ew.
Right, carry on.
I actually want to vomit.
Oh, sorry, I've got really red, Ellen. You've embarrassed me, honestly. It's all your fault.
You did that to yourself. You did that all to yourself.
Oh, no. I tried to go a little bit bigger on stuff, really. But it's very, you must be the same. I certainly don't have any cherished houseplants because I'm just away too much. It wouldn't be fair on them. Do you know what I mean? So, and also, yeah. If they're really specialists, I get someone in, but it's not. They're more kind of like setting, if you know what I mean. So I wanted one of these, when you're in an office and you see these tall planters, really, they're probably about 1 meter long. They're not very narrow. They're quite narrow and they're just tall and they're like room dividers. But they're so expensive.
Yeah, pots are expensive. Yeah.
The price. £400, £500 each.
Yeah, that's a lot. And do you know what? That's probably half the reason why we don't all have big houseplants, because honestly, that's really a lot of money.
But I thought, because what I was going to do was consolidate the larger houseplants into and almost use them as room dividers with 2 or 3 in one of those long containers. But honestly, they're too expensive, these pots.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I agree. It's the same here. So I've got quite a few big pots from IKEA that have been really quite better value.
Yeah.
The ones, they're not plastic.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Fiberglass, maybe, I don't know, but they're big.
Okay.
They weren't as expensive. And there's also ones that are made of kind of like rattan, and they were really
really
I mean, they're not like the tall ones you're talking about, but they're big and they
were. I want them to really narrow, though. That's the thing, because it doesn't take up much floor space then.
Yeah.
So,
because they're made for commercial use. Lots of people don't tend to have them at home.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they're a nice solution, especially for people on balconies and stuff. Yeah.
Well, you've just given someone an idea there. Someone who produces pots and containers.
It seems very obvious to me, so. Ellen, I'm going to be hosting the Urban Show at RHS in Manchester.
I'm
actually quite excited.
I saw that announcement today, and I love your carrot jumper, by the way. I remember that very well.
Yes.
I think
I feel really cool.
Pardon?
I feel cool. Sorry, that was it.
I feel cool because you're hosting Urban Show.
That's the text. I feel cool. But no, I think it's going to be very exciting, actually. I've chatted to them a little bit about the plans. We've obviously got lots of different guests on the stage, but also it's not just about houseplants. It's kind of more of a just an urban vibe, and there's some really cool little plans coming along. Yeah.
It looks really, really nice, and I wish I could come, but it's the Wild Wellbeing Retreat that I'm running that weekend.
Oh, of course. The diary clash of the century.
I know. The biggest Insta clash of the century.
I heard you've only got a couple of spaces left. Is that right?
There's only 6 spaces left, and we're in January. The retreat's in April, so that's bananas.
Wow!
So many people said, "Oh, we're coming. We're definitely coming." But the amount of people who said we're coming is way more than the 6 spaces that are left, and that genuinely. So I've like been putting.
They've got a book.
I've been putting stuff out on social media saying you're going to have to come please book, and even if it's a payment deposit or whatever, you need to reserve your space because
definitely.
But that's amazing. That's very, very exciting.
Yeah, no, really, really cool. That's cool. Oh, and now you're keeping busy, darling.
I've actually booked a few hosting gigs myself this year, but they've not been announced yet, so I don't really know if I'm allowed to announce them. But they're quite.
Well, no one listens to the podcast, so you're all right.
Do you know? When I logged into Libsyn the other day, I think we had nearly 700,000 downloads now.
What, in a day?
Well, no, not in a day. That would be crazy. But
that's cool. That's 750,000.
But that's only on the ones that method records. So there's obviously lots of other podcast channels where people download, but we don't copy it. It's recording is really odd. Like you don't get all of
all those figures are a mystery to me. I always, whenever anyone asks, I'm like, oh, Ella does the technical side, and then I just run off.
I don't know much more than you.
She doesn't even know. I'm like, Ella's our tech whiz.
You always say that. I'm like, I have no idea what to do.
Oh, Ellen, ding to the dong. Look, new copy of Amateur Gardening.
What's your article this month? Is it weekly or monthly?
Fuzz. Look, isn't it lovely? But I really like that cover, to be honest. Look, with those bulbs.
Is the magazine weekly or monthly?
Bi-monthly? What's that mean? Every 2 weeks, yeah.
Every 2 weeks, yeah. So it's about peach buzz.
Yeah. Like
Pantone colour of the year.
Yeah, defo. And I've just written about Gisneriads. And next I'm going to write about snowdrops. I'm so excitable today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so sorry.
First of all, you were late for our call.
Oh,
it's
because I've started taking mushrooms. That's why.
You've started taking mushrooms.
No, I did this workshop, which you're going to do with Kaylee Brothers, doing planting the mushrooms, which was brilliant. And they were talking about the different kind of benefits of like lion's mane and the cordyceps and this and this. And I bought one of the kind of powdered mushroom sets that they got. So I'm taking it every day. And I think this is day 4. And literally during this Zoom call, I'm now feeling the first effects.
I've had the mushroom powder for quite a few years, and I also get a mushroom latte, which is amazing. I totally recommend it.
You make it yourself, you mean?
I am excitable 60% of the time.
Do you make it yourself, the latte?
No, it's a matcha. So it's a mushroom matcha. You get it in like a packet, like you do the mushroom powder that you
really?
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has all of like the lion's mane and all the mixed powder in it. And it just tastes so good, and I'm completely addicted to it. Mushrooms are definitely. But what I was just thinking is that I really want you to sit at the front of the comedy club. Do you ever sit in the front row?
No, definitely not.
I think considering how excitable you are right now, you should.
No, even though like I'm so like. Even though I do different work, which is obviously then, hosting, presenting, TV, blah, 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 I would hate that. I would literally hate being, not heckled, but like picked out of the audience. That would be my worst nightmare. I'm just there cringing. Like sometimes I'm like enjoying the comedy, but I'm kind of mostly sitting there kind of just hoping nobody will notice me. So this is going to sound really crazy, and I'm only going to tell you, but and listeners, but I tend to I'll really think about what I'm going to wear, and I'll wear something like really, because I'll often wear nice different clothes and like stuff that's a little bit like not out there, but just nice looking. But when I go to comedy, I really wear like the most boring dowdy clothes or a black t-shirt because I don't want to be noticed. I don't want to be picked on.
Okay, so you want to be conspicuous most of the time and inconspicuous at the comedy club.
No, yeah, that's the right way around. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that would be horrible to be picked on. You wouldn't like it, would you?
No, but I was saying it because
No.
you were saying how excitable you are, and I thought that would be quite amusing for you to sit at the front and be very excitable.
Oh, God, no.
What occurred?
Oh, Ellen. I will need to go in a minute because I do need to go to the comedy club and to the toilet.
The last gossip you left because you
Yeah?
Yeah. But it's
Well, it happens often.
I'm literally done with you now.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Had enough of you now.
But you just want to get the last word. I already said I was done with you.
You didn't say you were done with me. You said you were done with this. I'm saying
Well, I
I'm
was
done
hinting
with
heavily. Oh, okay. But yeah, no, it's been really great to chat. I'm really glad we stayed in touch. Everything's going well.
I think you need to go and wash your hands after sticking your fingers down your smelly ears before you go in there.
Down yourself.
Bye.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Ellen. Have a lovely week. And I'll talk to you soon.
Peace out.
Greetings from Tokyo.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and gently relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life now enable you to enjoy these same health and well-being benefits at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com when you quote code PLANT24 on ordering. That's PLANT24 on ordering.
The music for the Plant Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.